You as a person, we just need to clear up a big conspiracy controversy that Metal and I are very curious about. And we should have started off with this, but the real watchers are watching right now are going to get the answer to this. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Blade Dragons podcast. I'm Elliot.
And I'm Alex.
And today we are joined by a very special guest today. A titan amongst titans, a pinnacle of Baytube, Mr. Jake ILINNUC.
It's me. How's it going? How's it going, everybody? I'm glad to be here. Glad to be on the podcast, the fastest growing and the best Beyblade podcast around.
There you go. We knew it from the first day we started this channel. Put in the bio, #1 Beyblade X Podcast. And who would have thought? We got actual guests. We didn't expect to do interviews, and now we got Jake on here. Things are going crazy, but
yeah, I'm hyped.
Anyway,
I'm excited.
Yes, very much so. Take it away, Alex. We'll let you dive into to the conversation. You seem very eager over there.
No, I'm yeah, I definitely. I'm also happy about the peaches, but anyways, yeah. So of course, we went from we would never have expected to get to the point where we're interviewing Jake, but it is a blessing among blessings nonetheless, and we're always happy for everybody that watches. Viewers, we're doing this for you guys. We do it for everybody.
I'm glad to be here.
We're so happy that you're here.
I'm excited.
Indeed. So, of course, we're going to get started with the questions. We actually got a record now. We got 12 questions, which has never been done in Blade Dragons history. But yeah, so it's all good stuff. When did you get into Beyblade?
So I skipped pretty much the whole plastic gen. I was old enough to remember it. I feel like I got a Bay on clearance, although I don't remember which one it was. My first Metal Fight Beyblade was Dark Bull back in 2010. I didn't really think about making YouTube videos for it, and then I made a video on Rock Orso. I had a little unboxing for it, and that got a decent amount of views for me at the time. I think I got 50 views in a week or something, and I was like, let's go! Mm-hmm. And I kept getting Beyblades because I thought they were super fun, and then I kept making YouTube videos about them. So that was, I want to say it was June of 2010 maybe, or September, something like that. So it's been a long time, almost 14 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. It is. And, you would never have guessed by watching that video that, ILINNUC would become the man that he is today with such charisma and everything. But I'm really glad you brought up the Rock Orso unboxing. I have seen that. I went back a little while ago and I watched it, and it's it's one of those things where it's like when you know the person that made it, it makes it all the more endearing in a way.
Yeah.
It's like this is where he got started. And this was the early days for him. Whereas me and Elliot, we go back to our early days, 7 months ago, our videos then, and it's it's I think we all look back on our first videos with that fresh retrospect, oh, that was something. And it's it doesn't matter, how good the editing was or how good the commentary was. Everybody looks back and is like, wow, that kind of sucked, but. We also do have a relic of that video for remembrance, which...
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
We have a little soundboard for it.
That was my voice. So anyways, it's funny, just to talk about... So really, everybody gets hate comments on YouTube, right? But whenever I was younger, it was the wild west of YouTube. I mean, YouTube had been around for I think 4 or 5 years at this point, so it was really new. The amount of comments I would get asking if I was a girl was crazy. Because my super high pitched, 11, 12-year-old voice. I was, that was interesting. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny to go back, and I've gone back to some of my older videos a few times, as every once in a while. And what's also funny is I remember from a lot of them, I remember where I was whenever I recorded that. especially the Rock Orso one. Like I remember setting up the little Tupperware container to have like a white background because it was easier for my camera to like focus and it just looked better to me. And I just remember I didn't know how to edit then either. So I think that's a 2-part video. I think the second part is just me putting the stickers on because I couldn't edit videos. I would literally record on my grandma's like old 5 or 4 megapixel Kodak camera. And I realized, wait a minute, what's this little card? You know, like a card like this. Like, what is that? And I figured out how to, oh, there's the dog. Figured out how to put that into my computer and just upload straight. So that was like raw, no editing. So it was hard. That was a different time for sure.
That's very fun. Because we talked with Counter last week and was like, oh, how'd you get started? And he was also around the same age, but also a different generation time. So would you say that recording that video started your passion for filmmaking? Did you ever take a break in between there, or has it just been from there on?
So it's kind of that's tough to answer. So I did take a break because I really only recorded the stuff that I was like interested in. So like battles. There was no like YouTube optimization for like titles and thumbnails and whatever. So the whole like I didn't really do the whole like game of YouTube, I would call it. So I think that's what got me on track to want to do YouTube, right? I wanted to do something involving it, but I was just kind of too young to realize like what that would mean. But I took a break and my channel basically kind of died out. I think I was doing like monthly Loot Crate unboxings, some random vlogs for a few years. But it was kind of whenever I got into Beyblade again in 2016. That's kind of whenever the news of the Hasbro stuff was coming out. That was when I got back into it. And going back to those videos is even more cringe than my stuff when I was 11 or 12. Because I was like 17 at that time. Like I wasn't a little kid. But I just always wanted to make each one better and like edit them better, have like a better camera presence. I started becoming more knowledgeable and like on cameras and like what they do and how to like make things look the way I wanted them to. I just did it kind of slower than most people, I think, because it took about 6 or 7 years to actually make videos that I'm really, really proud of, which is kind of what I'm doing now. So,
yeah, you have it. That is the come up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember those days where it was like you saw, all these other guys on YouTube, and like back then it was like so limited. There was like the Minecraft space, like 2010 to like 2013, 14. It was like, the Minecraft space. And then for Beyblade, it was like, JoJo, Beyblade Geeks, and Zanky was also kind of making noise back then too.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like other people, there was a lot of, younger kids and some teenagers playing Metal Fight, and then the WBO channel as well. But there wasn't like a whole, like market like there is now.
Yeah.
It's interesting how things evolve over time. So considering that you were into Metal Fight and whatnot back in the day and you were on YouTube, did you ever watch OG Beyblade Geeks back in their like 2011, 12, 13 days?
Yeah, I watched I think I watched Beyblade Geeks. I watched 1, 2, 3, 4 Beyblade. There's been a lot of channels that I watched then because it was so long ago. Either they rebranded and they tried to do something else, and they like deleted their videos. Like one channel I used to watch was like Metal Fusion Videos, for example. And he and I actually became like really, really good friends. But then he kind of took down all of his videos as he got older because he just, I don't know. It's just kind of like the times changed. But El Drago Wolf was like the first person I watched. You could probably look up his stuff now. I watched his video on like a double pack unboxing, and his video is what made me want to unbox Beyblades. So I unboxed that Rock Orso wasn't my first Beyblade. That was like my 5th or 6th, if not more. But his unboxing of it made me want to do my own. So El Drago Wolf, BBG, JoJo, Unicorno, what was his name?
Unicorno Extreme
Yeah.
GT, something like that.
Yeah. And there was a guy named Pyrus Brawler I watched who now is does like his own like animation style stuff, and that list kind of grew as Burst went on, and some channels disappeared, some channels kind of just quit, and then new channels came up.
Interesting. That's a really interesting perspective for
Mm-hmm.
the longevity of Beyblade. It's like, yeah, it's like Beyblade itself has been around for quite a while. Came out in 99, big in the early 2000s, and then early 2010s when Metal Fight strung up, and then late 2010s with the peak of Burst, and then now we're probably going to see, probably mid 2020s we'll hit the X high. I'm gonna guess next year, 26 probably. But it's also, you think about like all of the old channels that existed that don't really exist or don't do Beyblade anymore, and kind of how like that landscape shapes and evolves, where gaps are created and then filled in, or sometimes there are gaps that don't get filled in for one reason or another. But certainly a perspective that you can't get from very many places.
Yeah, and it's also because how like this Beyblade scene changes, right, with people like gaining or losing interest, but also it changed in how like YouTube changed with like the different algorithms, different types of videos being popular. Over the last few years was like the Mr. Beastification of YouTube. So you saw some, not some, but you saw like different Beyblade creators kind of do things similar in that. And now Mr. Beast is trying to push away from that and is wanting to do like instead of doing like fast cuts where like it's yelling at you in the beginning, trying to make it a little bit more, add some more breath in there to have stuff take a little bit longer. So it's kind of just everything. The whole it's odd how it's not just Beyblade that's changed. It's also just all of like internet culture, kind of, and you can kind of see how internet culture changed and how people changed while watching Beyblade videos at the same time. So it's really interesting. It's an interesting deep dive.
There's so much psychology that goes into the internet nowadays. Like you mentioned, it used to be point, shoot, upload the raw file. Now it's like, I think I watched a breakdown on a Mr. Beast video, and he's like, every 2 minutes, because he makes, I don't know, like 20-minute long videos of contests, and he's like, if every 2 minutes doesn't have like a new plot, the audience is lost. It's like, oh my gosh. They're all the little things. It's crazy nowadays how much has to go into retaining people's attention now that short form content's taken off. I'm completely out of it. It's just like a whole nother generation you have to learn to just stay up to date with anything.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that also comes down, as much as, like, I would say the age group of maybe 20, 30, mid-30s down to probably 20 or so remembers Vine. I think Vine is kind of where that started, where you had the 6-second videos, and then they upped it to 1 minute, and then Instagram had it, and YouTube brought it over, and then there was like Musical.ly, and that kind of faded out, and then Vine died, and then TikTok popped up, and then that started to rule all the short form content for the most part. And I think part of that also contributes to why there's such a lack of attention span, and why you have to constantly make things. You have to have like a new plot every 2 minutes or so pop up in your video, and it's like you have to engage everybody with graphics and constant things moving, and it's like I kind of miss.
Yeah.
I do miss the days when you would set your camera up and you would, just rip some Beyblade in a stadium and then call it a day.
It would definitely make it a lot easier on us.
It would.
That's for sure. If the wave was still just, I think like editing is fun, like especially like thumbnails. I think thumbnails are really fun. I think sometimes you could have a video you're working on and it takes you like way longer than you expect, and you're just kind of like, dear God, I want to be done with this so bad. I don't know if that's ever happened with you guys before.
Oh yeah.
But for thumbnails, for the most part, it's always fun to try and composite and put stuff together, and kind of experiment that way. But if the YouTube meta was just to bring out a camera, and just record an unboxing and just upload it straight from the SD card. I mean, I feel like I'd probably do that sometimes. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I miss that
brings up
sometimes, too.
a question that I was curious about. You mentioned that, I know we've talked a little bit, and you're like, I really like editing and thumbnails. So do you do majority of your own thumbnails and edits for your channel?
Yeah,
Or all of
so
it?
I do, I want to say 100%, but I've had, I think, one or two thumbnails made for me. It was like months and months ago. Like I think it was my Dran Sword versus the Longinus series. That video was one of very few that was not edited by me or thumbnail made by me, right? Just kind of like trying it out, experimenting. But for the most part, so like pretty much every video I've ever made, except maybe like one or two, has been edited by me and thumbnail by me. So start to finish.
That's something to brag about there. I mean, they're very good quality, obviously, and as you mentioned, 6 years of learning the camera, editing. You know, you pick up a skill or two, and it seems like all your practice has definitely evolved into a nice art form for your creative outlet.
I appreciate it. It's been fun. I think that especially over the last probably 2 years, especially, is when I've been trying to kind of like trying to like maximize that, right? Because you get into kind of ruts where it's like you want to, it's like, I think with any sort of like creative medium, I don't want to use the term like burnout, because sometimes people think of like burnout like not being a real thing that exists, because, you know, like, you're a YouTuber, how can you have burnout? You get to make videos on Beyblades, right? But I mean, you get kind of into like creative ruts to where it's like you're doing the same thing, or you're not happy with what you're doing because it's not evolving, right? You want to change it, you want to make it better. And I think that's really important too. I think that especially with, you know, and this will probably be expanded upon later, I'm sure you'll have maybe like a question kind of related to this, but especially because we're heading into a new Beyblade generation, we're going to have a whole new crop of people and channels and probably even podcasts that come up as people get into the hobby. And I always get asked kind of like, where do I start? Or like, do you have any advice or whatever? And that's one of the key things, is to try and keep improving, you know. Start at ground zero. Even if you're not super happy with it, just start there, but try and make every video just like a little bit better and better. And then soon you'll be happy with what you have. You'll have generated your own kind of style, I'd say, and you know what's fun for you to make. And then you just kind of go from there.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think another thing to add for when you're starting, make friends. Like, reach out to people, and you know, you got to balance it too. You got to make sure you improve your content and you get better. You're always striving to make your next video better than the last one, and so on. But I mean, the more friends you have in this community, you know, that's more people who give you feedback on your videos, more advice, more things that they would want to see, and all that. So that's such a nice thing about the Beyblade community. It's like everyone, you know, cares about, you know, seeing you do the best that you can do.
And it's a community, you know, so it's like, it's one of the things too about Beyblade is it's a hobby that's meant to be enjoyed by more than one person at a time, right? You're Beyblade battling. Luckily now, I mean, we have like Noozle 3D attachments and whatever that makes it's easier than ever to launch 2 bays at one time and to battle with yourself. But obviously, if you can't battle with somebody else, like I can't, like right now, I can't battle with, you know, Elliot if I wanted to. But it's fun to at least be able to talk to somebody about it, and it just makes it more enjoyable to be part of one group, or even multiple like little groups, like multiple little communities. It's more fun to be a part of it if you have people to speak to about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing that I found out is Metal literally just started commenting on a couple of my videos, like literally like a month and a half in, and we literally talked on Discord for like an hour or two, and we're like, oh, you like Beyblade? Oh, you really like Beyblade? We should start a podcast. Same day, made the podcast.
That's fun.
And it was like, and then we've just been been working off each other throughout the Bay community ever since, and it's been a really cool journey to have all these friends made, and that we all are passionate about spinning tops. What a funny concept to all be passionate about.
Right?
Yeah. It's like you got these tops, and they spin, and they're made of metal and plastic, and sometimes rubber even. And they've got different parts, and you launch them in a little dish made of plastic, and they hit each other and stop spinning at a certain point, and
It make cool noises, little
Yeah.
dink noises. and
sometimes
it's
they
just like-
explode. It's so funny how like the internet brings people together in some ways, and it's like, while
Yeah.
we could sit here and definitely talk about the divisions of the internet and how in some ways it makes people more divided, at the end of the day, yes, it's not the same as us sitting in the same room and chatting with one camera and one microphone, but in such a large expanse and in the greater scheme of things, it is incredible that we are able to come together as a
Yeah.
community and be able to sit down and chat with each other from hundreds, thousands of miles away.
Yeah, it's crazy. 'Cause I know like back in like the Metal Fight days, we didn't have Discord. A lot of people. I mean, Discord's been around for a while, but I think I was using Skype back then,
Yeah.
and Skype was not. I mean, Skype was not a great program. It was not as great. I mean, or Skype or TeamSpeak. I don't know if any of you guys remember TeamSpeak,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely take it
There
for
were
granted sometimes.
There were a lot of those weird voice chat things that popped up. If it wasn't Skype, there was something else, and it was like, okay. And then I think Discord came in like the mid-teens and it's just
Yeah.
been the titan. It was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
at least we have a place we can actually like share high-quality footage across the world. It's like, what?
Right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's Discord makes it so easy. Like 2015 was a big year, and then being able to not have to deal with, oh, this person is disconnected for 5 minutes because their bitrate dropped between 5 and 17 or whatever, and now we gotta like re-record everything. It's like Discord is just like, yeah, maybe you'll get like a bad ping every so often, your bitrate will slip a bit, but for the most part, you just get constant smooth streaming, which makes it really easy for the podcast because we don't have to deal with paying for services to have multiple cameras on one program.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, I can imagine like back in the day, like, I never really thought about it for a while, but it's like, nowadays we're so fortunate to have better technology because like Metal Fight back in like pre-2015, it's like all you had was Skype, TeamSpeak, like a couple other like random programs, and communication was forums. It was all like 4chan, Reddit, even probably before then MySpace,
The
and
WBO.
AOL. Yeah, true. The
Yeah.
WBO forums. Those
It's
have been
wild
around.
seeing some forum posts like collection, like here's my collection, or even like selling threads of people like like Bay Marketplace kind of, and you see people selling like like hybrid wheel stuff or whatever from like 2009, and it's just kind of crazy that stuff really evolved over time, but then some things also are very similar. And it's funny to see how technology has made its way into Beyblade as well. I mean, one example is like the Battle Pass, which is kind of like I guess, but there's like the Beyblade Burst app, which, issues aside, being able to battle with a friend. The Beyblade X app is supposed to be adding online multiplayer at some point. Maybe by the time viewers are watching this in the future, it'll already be there. But it's kind of crazy how, yeah, like you said, how technology is not just help like the world from like a macro scale, but even just like the community. It's just been able to connect us in a really really strong way, and it's a good thing to have that.
Absolutely. Yep, it's such a beautiful thing for the most part, but we like to focus on the fact that it's beautiful before things
not
get
mentioning
too
the bad
nasty.
parts. Or
Yeah, we'll leave the bad parts for other people to talk about. We'll keep it positive over here.
Yeah.
So you've been OG pretty much for YouTube. You came about in 2010, very early on. What was what was it like going from Metal Fight over to Burst, where they went back to plastic and they changed the system completely and all that? Like, what was your opinions on that back in 2016?
Really, I don't know if I have like the best take because I didn't really get a lot of the zero G stuff. I didn't really care about it. Now that I'm wanting to make a zero G video, I wish I would have gotten at least a few more of them. But I really wasn't into it, so I didn't get any of like the Beyblade Legends stuff that came out in like 2014, 2015. And I had seen a couple of BBG videos for the first set of burst releases, but I really wasn't knowledgeable about them. I kind of became knowledgeable about them later. So by the time I swapped into burst, I was just kind of ready for it. Because I had taken such like a long break, I didn't have to really get used to it or anything. I liked the way they looked. You know, it was different. It was unique. It was not the shaky fishbowl stadium from Zero G or the super hollowed out Metal Fury stuff from Hasbro. At least not yet. We got that a few years later. But going back to the first lineup for Burst stuff, I was just kind of ready for it. And I was excited to get something new. And so I just kind of just embraced it straight off the get-go.
With Burst being introduced, did that take precedent as one of your favorite generations?
I think I can answer this question in like two different ways. I think in terms of like if I just look at the Beyblade generations themselves, I think my favorite generation still has to be Metal Fight. I think that all the products were, even Zero G was fine. It's just the stadium wasn't great, and I wasn't a fan of the crazy weight of like the synchrome system. But I thought the designs are still cool. It's something I'd be interested in now, but whenever I was an angsty 13, 14-year-old boy, I just thought, I was like, that's lame, dude. That's lame. So I think the Metal Fight generation is still my favorite gen. I like the anime the most, even though it was off the wall and crazy and I need to rewatch it. But in terms of for like being like a YouTuber and being like in the Beyblade community, Burst is pretty much the only like default option, right? Like through Burst, I discovered like you two as two different examples. A bunch of other people in the community that I still talk to on like a day-to-day basis. People I used to talk to, maybe we just don't really talk anymore, but I'm still glad to have connected with them in the past. And on like a YouTube scale, I went from, I think I had like 12,000 subscribers or something at the very beginning of the Burst generation, and then I kind of see where I'm at now, and I've kind of developed like actually having fun making YouTube videos, editing, thumbnails, just a bunch of stuff like that. But if I had to just say for just purely Beyblade, my favorite generation is still Metal Fight, and it probably always will be. I don't know. Maybe it's nostalgia talking, but that's still my favorite for sure.
Yeah. I think nostalgia does play a factor because, like, I like X a lot. I like I like a lot of for the products, exclusively the products. I like a lot of the designs that they've been coming out with. I like the concepts that they've been playing with, and it is early days still, so I think we're definitely seeing improvements in the next couple years when we get Gen 2 or Season 2, Season 3, and the new systems. But I like the fact that they're catering to every gen. You've got like the gears and whatnot that would, like Plastic Gen had the spin gear and everything. And I also like the fact that you can take off the blade ring and swap it onto a different base. You need a screwdriver for it, but like, it's still easy to do relatively. Just swap, one part over to another. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the metal from Metal Fight and that explosive contact chemistry, and then you've got the burst mechanics from Burst and whatnot. And I really like that they've been pushing that because it certainly helped, a lot of people, including me, get back into it, which is great. But at the same time, there's also they don't have the sounds when they hit like Metal Fight did. Metal Fight had more of a ding,
like a ding, ding. Yeah,
and like X has more of a more like a whack. It just sounds like metal whacking.
Because the speed is just that speed difference,
Yeah, and then I think it's also because the metal is more so in integrated with the plastic, so you don't get the that you don't get the sound, and like it doesn't travel around the Beyblade the same way that it does with Metal Fight, working, it's like under and all that. There's like more, the metal's more exposed on Metal Fight, so you get that sound. And X, it's all molded onto the plastic, so you don't get that same sound. But I think sound's also a huge part of it. And then
it's also too, and that I think X so far is probably my favorite generation. It's also new, so that might be kind of messing with it a little bit. Might be a little bit of recency bias, but it's been my favorite generation to battle with because it's a lot faster. Even though maybe you can make an argument that is not as strategic, I still think it's a lot more exciting to play. More exciting than Burst, especially the end of series Burst stuff. That was a bit of a snooze fest. More exciting than Metal Fight. I think Metal Fight, the battles are good, but not nearly as amazing as diehard fans would say. It still has its own set of boringness problems sometimes. But I think the biggest thing too, and why I probably won't have X as like my favorite generation, is because I'm old. I turned 25 this year. I've been trying to say this to as many people as possible because I just think it's funny. Beyblade in general started the same year I was born, right? Same month as well, July of 1999, right? So that was just kind of a funny little coincidence. But because I'm older and we're older as well, we're just going to be a lot more critical, you know, which is like deservingly so in some places, probably a little overboard in others. But back when Metal Fight was coming out, or if the plastic gen was your childhood generation, or even Burst was your childhood gen, you're not going to be as critical. You're just kind of going to take them. Maybe you'll think some bays are bad, but you're still going to battle them. Meanwhile, for me, I'm considering like the weight of the bays, contact points, possible, how marketing is going to spin this Beyblade, what Hasbro is going to do to influence like their sales numbers. And it's fun to think about. I'm not going to stop thinking about that, but it makes it a little bit less enjoyable slightly, because you can't just kind of turn off your brain and enjoy it the same way you did whenever you were like 8 or 9, right?
Yeah.
So if you're still in that boat, if you're one of the viewers that's younger while watching this, just enjoy them, have fun. Don't be super critical. Mm-hmm. Make your fun combos. Make a Dran sword on Spike combo. Why not?
Yeah. Play around with it. If you're young, if you're still a teenager, or, you haven't hit your teenage years yet, just enjoy it. Don't listen to what people say about you enjoying it. If you find Burst to be fun, if if your older sibling or whoever, gave you a bunch of Metal Fight bays and you're watching the anime and you're playing with the Metal Fight stuff, enjoy that. If you are amazingly that young and you're super into plastic gen and you have the opportunity to get some, enjoy those. And if you're getting into X with everyone else, enjoy it while you're still young, because you'll never get that imagination back once you
and don't listen to Metal Top's horrible Beyblade UX takes, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Oh, he's talking about you.
I gotta call him out now.
Me. I'm waiting for me to get called out here.
Yeah.
Both
it's all right.
These guys' takes on UX were a little. Sometimes some of them were solid. Some of them were just like, okay, come on.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think also when you become an adult, you're also able to handle the criticism better. I'm not here, with my fists up, ready to argue why I'm right about UX being terrible or whatever. Well,
I am.
I think
speak for yourself.
Yeah, I think we're. I think you meant to say 15 there this year, but anyways, not. But yeah, like when you're a kid and you're young, enjoy whatever it is that you enjoy. You will never get that imagination back. As much as I try to recapture, that level of uniqueness and that level of just pure, what will this do if I make it like this mindset? Mm-hmm. What will I do if I put Spike on 360 Night-Lance? What will happen if I put a cell on Oval and DB layer of some kind? What if I put Quake on 85 and pre-hybrid Esculpio? Probably nothing good from that one, but try it anyways. Just, go wild, because when you grow up and you start to, look at the world with a more objective view, you're going to miss the times that you were young and you had that inspiration to just create whatever, no matter what it did. You just wanted to see what would happen.
Yeah. This podcast got really philosophical really quickly.
It goes...
It goes deep.
That's what we do. We get criticism that we're very abrupt or we're very critical of things, but after all, we are adults here, and not everything's about the spinny tops. Everything, like you mentioned, is a perspective now. Everything's casted in a different light with a deeper meaning that you got to address that to get back to the front picture. And it's just funny that some of the critiques we've gotten here is like, one comment we got like last episode or our UX was like, I don't think I've seen anybody worry about UX like you guys have. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of why we're here, just to go off the deep end, say some other things that other people aren't going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why we started the podcast, because Ellie and I were just going on and on and on Discord, and, it wasn't going to end. So we're like, you know what, why not just, record that and post it on the internet for other people to enjoy. And then here we are a couple months later. And I definitely think sometimes we do get into those, more like you think a little deeper about everything. But at the same time, it's kind of good to recognize that. It's kind of refreshing to, if you can give some advice to someone, or you can, make someone's day brighter, give them a new slate to think on. I think that it's always a good thing when it comes around. But, we aren't the philosophy dragons quite yet. Maybe one day we'll get there, but for now we'll
That'd be a crazy podcast. Philosophy dragons.
When
we read Plato, Aristotle, Socrates,
grow out our beards.
Yeah,
like, bro. The Greeks were pretty cool, man. They were pretty sick.
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, the Roman Empire had El Drago, and Moses split the Red Sea with El Drago, and
I mean, that's canon. That's canon.
It is.
That's canon.
It is. The Roman Empire, or there were cities that got destroyed. El Drago was everywhere, man. He was the man. He was the man. But maybe when we're like 60, we'll retire from Beyblade. Keeping up with the latest generation of digital Beyblade. Part 70, when we get, you can jump your Beyblade, launch it on your phone, and then jump it out of it into the stadium whenever we get to that
point. Or it'll be like the Vision, the Apple Vision Pro will be on the Vision Pro 6, so you'll have your headset on, and you get those little pinch gestures. It'll be like to launch a bay, it'll just be like,
Yeah. Imagine, I feel like if Nintendo was doing the Apple Pro and they were doing that physical sensory thing, they would just have you they would market it where it's like you're actually ripping the Beyblade as hard as you can, but it's like Wii Sports.
That'd
where it's
cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
It'd be a fun way to play.
Bring the Xbox Connect back.
Yeah, bring the Xbox Connect, PlayStation Move, the Wii. We need the motion controls. We need that to be VR now.
Yeah, the one Switch Beyblade Burst game we got, I think, was pretty fun. The gameplay of it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed being able to have the Joy-Cons and launch, even though it was kind of superficial, wasn't really in depth or whatever. It was just fun. I hope we get a Beyblade X game on the Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be called.
Yeah,
that was something. Oh, go ahead, Metal.
Yeah, I had this great idea because the Bay Battle Pass has the little speed camera and everything, but it's got Bluetooth and it hooks up to your phone. So imagine if we got if the Beyblade software on the Switch, if we got a multiplayer option, RPG style MMO for Beyblade X, and you can go around, you can go to different stadiums and battle. It's a mix of open world MMO and Pokemon, except with Beyblade. And there's different arenas you can battle in, but you can also just battle on the street and whatnot, it's Metal Fight. But it hooks up to the Bay Battle Pass, so you can rip your Beyblade in real life, and then it sends it to the Switch and it rips it with the same speed and everything, and you get that full interactivity. It's I ripped my Beyblade in real life, and it rips it in the game against other people. That was kind of an idea I had for a possible not even just limited to the Switch, but maybe like any cross-platform, if that would be like a possible thing for Takara and whoever else they decide to make the game to do. I think that would be something super interesting to see.
It's funny because like that would be perfect as like a Pokemon Go style game. You know, because I don't want to play like there's like a Witcher one and there's like Monster Hunter, I think, but they're like kind of like those AR where you bring your phone out, you do like the gyms and whatever, like Pokemon Go. You could literally just almost copy the Pokemon Go format exactly, but have it be Beyblade instead, and it would still work really well.
True, yeah.
But if I could like go up to somebody on the like we're playing like Beyblade Go or whatever, go up to somebody and you could just battle, that'd just be fun. Yeah, but any like a video game, a new Beyblade video game would be very much appreciated for sure.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna backtrack a little bit in our conversation to YouTube. Do you ever go back and watch any of your like older videos or your first videos even?
Yeah, I my super old ones I go back just sometimes, like very very rarely, but sometimes I go back just to kind of reminisce, you know, because I can kind of imagine the kind of like, oh, I remember recording that, or I remember, before the editing days that my family was being really loud or something, so I had to stop, or someone came into my room and I could like hear people were coming down the hallway, so I knew someone was going to come into my room, so I had to stop the recording. And then, they got to start up part 2, and how frustrated I would get at like my mom or my cousins or something for, even though I said I'm recording, it's like, hey, I'm about to record, guys. Don't come and get me. Don't say that my dinner is ready. People are gonna make fun of me on YouTube, okay? But that's kind of more like for reminiscing. But from like my older videos, most of the time I'll go back to like a year or two ago, so I can kind of see how my style has kind of changed and ways that I can improve more going forward, you know? Or if I don't think I've like, this video is not going to be good, or I don't really feel confident on this, I'll go back to a video I made like 2 years ago and I'd be like, it's still going to be better than that one, because I'm not a big fan of that. But, kind of like to critique or criticize, and like kind of like constructive criticism is like, I would probably do that cut differently, or I would put on some B-roll there, or I would probably just get rid of that whole chunk, or I would expand more on it, kind of stuff like that.
Fair enough. Do you have a I would say a favorite video you've made, or do you have a top 3 that stand out as like your pride videos?
Yeah. I got to think about that. Yes, but maybe for like different reasons. In terms of like my best videos, and like I'm super proud of this, of the way that this came out. Super high quality for me. I think I did really well on it. That answer will probably change every like year, right? Like a lot of stuff that I made back in like 2021, I just think is kind of unwatchable for like me personally, right? Other people probably have a different opinion, but it's like I just can't do it. Okay. But a video like a pretty recent video that I made that I'm really proud of is probably my Beyblade Burst versus Beyblade X, kind of like a showdown video, because I actually kind of wrote I don't script anything, right? Maybe I'll have like a little like a bullet list of like, okay, I gotta remember to talk about, make sure to mention this if there's like a mold problem I want to talk about, or this bit has something funny with it or something. I'll do like a bullet point. But that video I actually mostly like scripted. I recorded it in a really different way. I thought the thumbnail was pretty good too. I enjoyed the thumbnail in that video. And that was just kind of fun. But it kind of changes with how my style evolves and how my process changes. So like next year, that video will probably be bad to me, or like not that great. And I'll have a new video that I'm super proud of. So I don't really have a top 3 that I could give you besides that one. And then I have some unboxings that I'm pretty proud of.
Good, you didn't fall into the trap. That's a trick question to see if you're an actual creator or not. you evolve, and you're very critical about yourself. That's a very good answer for the creation journey that you've been on.
Because for the most part, like, yeah, you can have some videos some collaborative videos, right? Like my Ultimate Valkyrie unboxing from years ago, I had both Kimbo and like Left Burst and I think someone else in it. So it's like a big like collaborative effort. I'm always gonna remember that one. Although looking back on it, I'm like, I probably would change up some parts of it. But just in terms of like my own videos where it's only me, it'd be very hard for me to remember a video I made like 4 years ago and put that into my top 3 because I feel like I've grown and I've just changed a lot over that time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think that's definitely, that shows the kind of content creators that, make it and the kind that don't. It's like when you start out and you say your top 3 videos or this video, this video, this video, and they're all like from the same time and they're all relatively new, or even especially if they're older, then that's, and you haven't changed much, that's a very telling sign. But having videos where it's like, you have a video that you like more than others for a particular reason because of what it stands for, or if it was a milestone video, or if it's, you did something new for the first time that took off, I think that's a very good way to look at, having your favorite list for your own content.
Yeah, I agree.
What was it like to be featured in the Beyblade Awards last year?
Yeah, it was definitely like not something I was really super, what was it? How do I word it? It was super cool to be there, and I'm excited for the next year. I can be a pretty competitive person, right? So I'm not like unhappy with like awards that I got or something. Some of them I don't really understand. Like I think the one that I won that I don't think anybody understood was the most like underrated creator.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that one was definitely surprising. I'll definitely take the Beyblade Oscar for that. I'll take it, but and next year, I definitely want to try and compete a little bit more for like Creator of the Year or short form Creator of the Year, whatever, those top tier categories. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun presenting an award for that as well. And if I'm given the opportunity, I'd love to do that again, especially now that by the time that comes out, we'll be super deep into Beyblade X, and especially on the Hasbro side. We'll probably have some new creators that'll be in that upcoming Creator of the Year, or maybe even some newer people nominated for some of the most prestigious set of awards. So it'll be fun to see how that develops.
Yeah, definitely.
You
Go ahead,
mentioned
Elliot.
You mentioned short creator of the year. Do you I know they're not even comparable, but do you enjoy making shorts anywhere near long form content? Are they comparable in your eyes?
So I think that there's a lot of people out there that don't like short form. There's a lot of there's like new creators out there that only make short form stuff, or almost very exclusively. Like Lamar Blades is an example that comes up, or Bay Legacy. There's also people out there that think that short form content is like worse, or it's like bad, or if you make short form videos and you're not a true creator. I don't really believe that. I think they're fun to make. They're definitely different. My short form stuff only takes me like maybe an hour and a half to make, and the viewership potential is like super high. Like it's kind of like, I think that my last 5 or 6 short form videos have like a total view count of like almost like 500,000 views, right? And it probably took me the same amount of time to make as my one single last video, like long form. So not really what you asked, but I would much rather make long form. I think it's more fun. It's more fulfilling. I'm able to kind of showcase a lot of the stuff that I enjoy to do. Like I enjoy doing B-roll, close-up shots of stuff, battle segments, and you can't really do that on a short form, or at least you can't do it as, you have to be really quick. You have to be really, really quick with things. And so I enjoy making long form more, But I do think that I would probably recommend everybody at least make some YouTube shorts for sure. I think if you're not, that's like half of the algorithm almost. And also, if you make a YouTube short, you could put that on TikTok, you could put that on Instagram, pretty much anything, and you could be really diverse. But just because your short form stuff is doing good doesn't necessarily mean your long videos are going to do well. Those are two distinct algorithms. So if you can break into both of them, then you're set. But I think everybody should try and make shorts. Although I think long form stuff is more fun.
Definitely. I think one of the biggest things with shorts is that for the people that grew up or more prefer like, you know, the older long form content, especially, you know, like for our ages where, you know, when Beyblade YouTube was still young, it was like Beyblade Geeks and it was JoJo and 1234 Beyblade and Unicorno Extreme GT and all them. And they were making, you know, longer reviews, you know, anywhere from, you know, like 7-8 minute unboxings and reviews of this Beyblade, and then another video where they battle tested against other Beyblades. You know, it's a longer, like 20-30 minutes in some instances. I think there's a bit of a bias there because, you know, we miss, there's a little bit of nostalgia towards that era. And, you know, that's what we like to watch and look back on fondly. But I definitely, you know, I had that bias against shorts where it was like, oh, it's lame. It's not true content because it's so short. But after making a few shorts, and especially after seeing some of them really pop off for, you know, the size of my channel in perspective, it was kind of like, wow. So, you know, maybe it isn't as long form. You can't do as many, you know, can't go as in depth with a short per se into certain topics. But you know, giving it a different light and looking at it as a gateway to being able to delve into those topics, or, you know, use it as like a trailer or a sneak peek to a certain video. And it's like, if you want to see the full thoughts, you got to go watch the actual video and you'll see the whole thing. And I think, you know, that sort of got me out of that rut where it's like, oh, shorts are lame because they're short and they're fatty, but they're actually not. They can be extremely useful. And I think once, I think for anybody who is looking at them and saying, oh, it's just a hack, it's not. It can get people into it. You know, I'm still growing. I didn't make a couple shorts, get from like 130 to 300, and then I drop back down. You know, people will watch a short, get interested, and then, you know, they'll stick around for the long form. So it's useful. It's not just a hack. It is a way to, it is a method. It is a method.
Yeah, it kind of adds into like the strategy part, you know, because like the thing is like everybody's YouTube journey is going to be different. You know, some people will just want to just record long, you know, super long form, like hour-long video where they just kind of throw it on there. Some people are going to want to do something hyper edited that, you know, because it's short, it's not in that 8 minutes long, probably like 2 to 3 minutes. It's not going to play as well in like the algorithm. But some people don't really care. And then there's going to be some people that like really care and they really want to make sure that they optimize and not necessarily just do things to get views, right? But, you know, try and, you know, have like a really think about the thumbnail, think about the title, you know, don't lie to people, but, you know, you want to grab people's attention. So you definitely don't want to put like, you know, I'm about to make an example, but Mim kind of did that with his Hasbro Beyblade X videos. I don't know if you've seen those. Those are funny.
Yeah,
those are funny, but you got to be in on the meme. But some people could actually like. I remember for Beyblade Burst, towards the earlier time, some people were doing that, and doing like an edited concept or an edited thumbnail, but they weren't really honest about it. Although for Mim, you kind of know that it's a joke. And if you're in on it, you also know that it's a joke.
Yeah.
Right? But for people's like YouTube journey, no matter what path you're in, you got to figure out what you really enjoy. And if what you enjoy is making like YouTube shorts and that's what you like to do, there's nothing wrong with that. And you're probably going to have people tell you, oh, it's not as valuable. It's not as useful. It's a cheat code, which in some ways, you know, like some viewership on my shorts, I have a few of them that are in like 200, 300,000 views. And if I could get that on one of my long form videos in that same amount of time, that would be insane. Okay. I'd buy myself a Gucci backpack. Probably not, but I don't think it's any like more or less valuable. It's just different. And I think people should, if you have the ability to like utilize a whole part of the algorithm, may as well try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, everyone.
I use shorts to kind of talk about things that I don't think are worth like a full video, like my Medio Al Drago YouTube short. I didn't want to make a full 8 to 12 minute long video on El Drago. Other people have done it before. I don't really, it's kind of old, but I thought it would work well as a YouTube short instead, and I think people are liking it. I'll probably have one on Omega Dragonis. I made a whole video about that, but kind of stuff that I don't think is worth stretching into a long video. It would work better as like a 60-second short. That's kind of my strategy for it.
Definitely makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So when you think of YouTube and you think of ILINNUC, what do those have in common?
YouTube and what do those have in common?
Where'd your name ILINNUC come from?
Oh,
Is there any backstory to that?
Yeah, so my it has to do with my last name and my grandma's name. I don't know if I want to. I think I've said it before, but just in case, I don't want to say. But
Nope,
it's like a mixture of parts of both of them combined, and then kind of parts of it reversed, and it just ended up with ILINNUC, which my grandma actually helped me come up with that name. So it's kind of a self-insert how it had her name in it, part of her name. I'm sure if people are in depth on the ILINNUC lore, they'll probably already know. I'm pretty sure I've said it before over the years. But I remember I was really into Bakugan because I made my channel in 2009, but I didn't upload until the year after because I didn't know how to actually upload videos. But I was really into Bakugan, and I remember really wanting to name myself like Darkus Master something with like a bunch of numbers, which would have been really dumb. Would not have aged well. So I'm glad I went with ILINNUC. I'm also glad I was able to get my own the @ tag that they added on
the
YouTube.
Handle, yeah.
I was able to get that @NUC handle, which I felt pretty happy about. Because nobody can ever spell ILINNUC. Okay, we'll just put it out there. The amount of different types of spellings of ILINNUC, I think, is crazy. But some people do double L's, some people do one N. I've seen crazy spellings of it, but I think @NUC, people, it's a little bit easier, I think.
3 letters. Not very complicated. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I guess I just can't relate to like those people who spell it wrong, because I mean, I've always had an aptitude for English, and then, you know, your name is obviously huge in the community, so, you know, mentioning it and spelling it out when I'm like texting somebody about whatever, and, you know, all that, it's like, you know, you get used to it. We'll roll right into the next one. If you had to restart your channel, if it got terminated and you wanted to, you know, start a new channel, or even, you know, actually, we'll look at it 2 ways. If it got terminated and you were going to restart, would you still do Beyblade? And then after that, if you could go back and restart your channel from the beginning, would you do something else if given the opportunity?
So if my channel were to get terminated, I think I would, I definitely would start up, because I enjoy Beyblade, right? It's not just something, because I've gotten this before where some people, I think it's as you grow too, you are probably going to have people that think that you're only doing it for views, or you're just whatever. It's kind of like a, you know, haven't heard that argument in a while, but it's happened before. So if my channel were to get terminated, I definitely would start it back up with Beyblade. Because I already have a base. I think people would maybe people would miss me and they'd want to, you know, resubscribe to the new channel. But I do definitely, the idea of making a channel that's not Beyblade related has always been kind of interesting. I just never really have the motivation for it, you know, because for Beyblade, I'm able to, like, I enjoy like using a camera. I enjoy doing kind of like macro and up close stuff and B-roll, and I like making my videos kind of like, you know, well edited. and I love Beyblade as well. So it kind of all combines together just to being a super enjoyable process. But I've also thought about, could I do my current sort of style, but with another topic? And I can't, and I've yet to think about a topic that I would enjoy. Like if I did like the typical like YouTube drama, like kind of slog, where I report on, or I talk about how this certain YouTuber did this or whatever, I wouldn't be able to use my camera in the same way, right? And that's a big part of what's fun making Beyblade videos, is getting up close and making the Beyblade look good. I wouldn't be able to do that. If I did like movie or video game reviews, it's kind of the same thing. If I did tech, I think tech is where it could fit the best. I mean, some of my biggest YouTuber inspirations are like MKBHD, Linus Tech Tips a little bit before the whole scandal issue. That was kind of a problem. But kind of, I think tech could work, but also I don't know how I could get into tech without spending a ton of money. Okay. Mm-hmm. How do I get an Apple Vision Pro? Cause that's kind of what's big right now, but I don't want to spend $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of fits for me. So, at the end of the day, I would definitely restart into Beyblade. It would just kind of be like a clean break, I guess. I wouldn't have old videos and whatever to compare to. Which would be really sad. I would just kind of hit the ground running with my current style. Maybe even step it up a little bit, because I got being on the smaller scale is definitely really hard. I'd say it's definitely harder to be smaller and trying to grow than being kind of, you're already grown and you're just trying to grow more,
Yeah.
because it's harder to establish something and to build something than it is to just kind of add decorations, which is kind of what I'm doing now.
That's definitely a perspective that we've not really had on here before, because like we've interviewed Mim and Counter and Noozle, but I don't want to like belittle them at all, because they're all great people and they all have great stuff that they do.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the numbers, in terms of the subscriber numbers and having that large fan base, having a large name, we don't really think about at our size, like, I guess, I think like there's always that thing where it's like, oh, it's easy to be a big creator, and it's not by any means, because you have a lot of fans. You have to put up with some unsavory people. Sometimes, you're at a higher risk of getting, a lot of shade thrown at you for a mistake, no matter how small it is. But there's, I guess, thinking about it a little bit more, there's such a unique separation between being a small channel and being a big channel. And
yeah,
it's definitely credit to the entire Beyblade community that the hierarchy is always missing, or not always, but generally missing from the Beyblade community. There's never the barrier between, 3-figure number to getting 1,000 subs or into the 10,000s, 100,000s, millions. Although we don't really have anybody in the millions.
Talk about millions here.
Yeah, I mean that's
yeah.
That's
There's only one right now. Only one
There's
Beyblade
two.
channel with. Who's the second one?
There's a few. I think there's
one. I think there's a couple 4-in-1s.
Yeah.
That one had like
okay.
1.2. Besides Beyblade Geeks, that it's so funny. We do this podcast and we talk to other people and we get introduced to new channels and we're like, how did we miss someone with 100,000 subscribers? And like doing my live streams, like I like Lamar popped into my stream the other day. I'm like, excuse me, like what are some of these creators that just stumble across some of these other Bay creators? It's just funny how vast and small the Beyblade community is at the same time. Mm-hmm. Would you care to introduce your dog? Or
sure.
any of your pets?
So this is Sydney, who I can lift her. She's right here. She is 3. She is a black lab. She is a mix. We're fostering her, but it's foster to adopt. So gonna get adopted, but it's like a foster thing for it's kind of what the shelter does.
Nice.
And she is from a kill shelter, so we wanted to. They're already kind of running out of space. They pretty much have to take animals, and they said to us, hey, like we don't, take out animals if we're running out of space, but if they have issues with people or whatever. And she had already been there she was surrendered the day after Christmas.
Oh gosh.
So we wanted to, and she's super sweet. She's just kind of crazy, and she likes to chew on things that she's not supposed to, like sandals.
Yeah.
But, but yeah, that's Sydney. And then I have 2 cats, which have been in my videos a couple of times, Tara and Nala, but they're cats, so I don't know where they're at. They're probably judging me somewhere.
That seems to be always the thing with cats. It's like they're off somewhere looking at looking at the note I left on the fridge, telling whoever to not eat the bagel that I cream cheesed and put locks on, and I left to eat later. And they're like, "Look at this human preserving his fish, not eating all of it right away. Ew."
Yeah, there's very judgmental animals, that's for sure.
I kind of stumbled
Bipolar.
over yeah. Interesting minds of animals, but I stumbled over my words a little bit before you had to go and grab the dog. When we were talking about what it's like between larger creators and small creators, what I meant to say was, me and Elliot, we were able to get our foot in the door super quick, and now Elliot's at 1.5k something. I'm at over 600 now, and it was quicker than I think it would have been, because we were able to see the awards. We reached out to I started reaching out to Mim and T-Flame and Solid, and then that led to becoming friends with them, and then hearing other names, and then chatting with them and getting into their videos, comment sections, leaving notes and whatnot. And then they came into the group, and we started talking with them, and then that just sort of started stacking up, and now we've got we got our little group that we've got, and that's that's a lot of connection within, so those numbers go up a little bit quicker as compared to if we were doing this ourselves, going one-man show, no collabs, just kind of passively observing the rest of the community online. And then you get you have that slower build. You have to work, you have to put in so much to to building your audience, building your channel and your niche, where I kind of guess for Ellie and I, it's I never thought about it until now, how much more difficult it would have been if the Blade Dragons didn't exist, or if we hadn't started talking to everybody after the award show, and getting in on that after it happened, and making so many great friends in this community.
It's also interesting how maybe it's just because I haven't personally discovered them. I like to say I know a lot of people in the community, or I've seen their channels before or whatever. There might be just some that I just haven't noticed, but it almost sometimes feels like there's a lot of the people that were in that middle ground, right, in terms of subscriber base. And I mean middle ground as in over 10,000 subs, less than 100k, or maybe around 100k, right? A lot of those creators aren't here anymore, whether they quit or along the way. Maybe they quit a few years ago, or they just kind of slowed down. But there's a brand new, and it's good to see, it's awesome to see, there's a new class of smaller creators that are going to grow. I'm talking to a couple of them right now, but there's also, so it's kind of a lot of the middle guys are gone. I think Daimyo GT is in that middle ground, but I can't really come up off the top of my head. I think Mim has 20,000 subs, right?
Mim, Left Spin Bays.
Yeah,
Daimyo.
Left Spin Bays, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of it off the top of my head. Yeah, not...
And I'm only counting English channels. I've seen there's really big, there's LB by, is it Sunil? I think
I think so. Yeah.
Either way, there's a lot of foreign to us
Cypress
channels that are pretty
and
large.
Beyblade Galaxy.
Yeah. But I would consider those in like the bigger tier. Like those guys are almost like around my size, you know? So, but it's hard to come up with someone who's got like 100K or 50K off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of those guys either grew to be larger or they just kind of stopped, right? So it's going to be exciting to see with how Beyblade X is, how like the smaller guys currently are going to grow, you know? Like it'd be interesting how probably 4 years from now, we're getting into like season 4 or 5 of Beyblade X, and here we are on a potential podcast, you know, and you guys will have your 100K plaques there. And then maybe I'll hopefully have a gold or at least close to that. That'd be cool. It's just really interesting to me to think about and to talk about, you know, how the Beyblade hype cycle will affect like YouTube and whatever. And subscribers, I mean, doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a cool metric. It's exciting to see stuff that you put hours of your life into have like a return, or not a return on investment, but just to see that people enjoy it, you know? That's always like super exciting. And just to see what people are going to be growing, and new people who probably don't even have a channel yet, how they're going to grow. It's just exciting. It's a different perspective that I have now than I did at the beginning of Burst, where I was kind of in that smaller tier, you know? So it's just interesting all around.
Yeah. I think, definitely with Beyblade, interest changed because from Metal Fight to Burst, I left. I watched season 1. I started watching God, but I didn't like the way that God started, where it was just Volt and Rentaro, and no one else was really there. And then Volt just leaves and goes to Spain, and you have all of these new characters and whatnot.
Like Free.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Beast.
Free looked like he was cool, but I was just kind of like... It's like with the Fast and the Furious, where we had, like, Brian in, like, the first 2 movies, and then, like, Tokyo Drift, there's just nobody from the first movie. Until the end, Vin Diesel shows up for 2 seconds, and he wasn't even supposed to be in the original thing. And, that's what it kind of felt like between season 1 and season 2 of Burst, where it's like, we got Volt, but where'd everyone else go? And I fell off. Yeah. And I also didn't like the toys at the time because I got like some of the early Hasbro dual layer and single layer, and I had the blue stadium and the Chaos Core ones, and those stadiums are doo-doo and very not great. So, I think in hindsight, I see why people like Burst so much, and and I hear from people who even weren't into it at the time, but then they came into it late into Burst around like the later seasons, and then they got into the rest of it from that, and I can see why people appreciate it. But then now it's like coming into X, you've got people like me and Elliot who came back seeing Beyblade X and how it's trying to incorporate all the previous gens, and it's definitely going to be an exciting time to see who sticks around from Burst into X, but then also the new creators that X will bring. And then even in 5, 6 or so years when X, caps out and starts falling, and, Beyblade moves on to Gen 5, who's going to stick around from X? Are they going to go back to plastic again? Are they going to, are they going to stop Beyblade? Which I hope they wouldn't, but, it'll be interesting to see.
Wow.
Yeah, because, I don't want to get too far into, like, X. I don't want to get too, like, critical about it, but there's some things that seem a little foreboding about the future of Beyblade, although
definitely some negatives to think about,
But I think in terms of the fundamentals of Beyblade X, I think Takara's hit it out of the park with it for Gen 4. Considering that it's gotten so many people back into it from, older gens and whatnot.
It's also kind of fun, not funny at all. Let me rephrase that. It's also interesting to think about, because it's like we're talking about like years, like looking on like the macro scale. Because we can look at like Beyblade X in the next couple of months, like, we have Hasbro images are going to come for that at some point. Then we have the official release in a few months, and then we'll have season 2. That's kind of like close, but thinking about, what it's going to be like 4 or 5 years from now, like, are we going to be on Gen 5 already? Are they going to kind of stretch X like they did for Burst, because they did say they want Beyblade to be evergreen, right? Which would be, from like a YouTuber perspective, that'd be awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
nobody wants like 2022 and 2023 was kind of like a dark age. Same as like 2014, 2015, how there wasn't any Zero G, there was no Hasbro stuff really.
I mean, aside from Legends, there was nothing.
Yeah,
for
and that was kind of already whenever it was just rehashed releases basically, and YouTube was also a lot smaller then. But nobody really wants like a dark age, right? You kind of want to, have that consistent, new stuff coming out. It just kind of make, from like a YouTuber perspective. But if we're looking at it, 5 years down the road, I mean, something wild to think about is that by like 2030, right? That's like going to be the end of generation 4. All have been making YouTube videos for 20 years. BBG will be making videos for closing in on 20 years. Same with Zanky or JoJo. You'll have some people who have been making videos for 10 years at that point. Say they started in 2020. So how many of those people are just going to kind of retire? You know, I don't see myself doing it, but I can't really predict several years in the future. Like, as this kind of, so it's interesting to like think of like, could I potentially be retired after Beyblade X? There's a title right there. ILINNUC retiring.
There we go. That'll be
that's our clickbait.
Good name.
Right. So that's something interesting to think about. Would Zanky retire and be like, you know what? I think it's time for me to move on. BBG, BBG's, they're older than I am. I think they're like around 30.
Yeah, they're pushing. So, yeah, they're at that point, just about.
So they'll be on that second half, pushing towards 40. Are they going to be wanting to do it still, or are they going to, I think one of them's married. I think Steven is married.
Steven's
or he's
married.
Engaged.
Steven's
like
married.
So Steven's married.
I don't know if Brendan's married, because I did a little digging a little while ago, and Steven, there was I forget whether it was like a Facebook post or something on Instagram or whatever, but it was, I'm pretty sure it was him and his wife. So I know he's married.
Yeah.
Brendan, I'm not sure about it. He has a little bit less presence with his personal life on.
Yeah, a little bit more private, which is good
That's
for him.
Fine. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting to think about how it's like, could we see people, because you have people that just kind of quit, or they just stop making videos, or like JoJo quit for a little while and now she's making videos again, kind of whatever she wants to make. But I don't think we've had anybody say like that I know of. It's kind of in that, I think about it in like from like the larger creators that have been around for a long time. We haven't really had anybody say, I'm retiring. I'm kind of hanging it up. We haven't really had that.
Yeah.
JoJo was close, but then she came back. So it's just kind of like, we'll probably, I bet we'll probably see that. And it's kind of sad to think about. But that's years down the line. I'd rather complain about Hasbro for now.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, maybe we shouldn't complain too much, but like,
Well, so when you're thinking about the big picture like that, do you have any driving factors that keeps you creating for going on 10 plus years now?
It's kind of interesting because the goals kind of change, right? So at one point my goal was to hit 100,000 subs, and I did. Then the goal was to kind of just continue growing, 200,000, 300,000, because growth really slowed down for comparing like 2020 and beyond to 2017. It's really like no comparison, right? You have a lot of creators that kind of pop up and whatnot, but pretty much everybody, the growth rate slowed as, Beyblade Burst slowed. So hitting 300K took a while. But now that we're about to hit Beyblade X, in like the States, and, the potential of it being evergreen and whatever.
Global.
It kind of you could probably go through some of my videos and see that I did kind of slow down. There was less stuff I kind of wanted to talk about. Around 2022 to early 2023, there were some times where I uploaded like 2 videos in like a month, or I went a month like without uploading. It was just really slow because there's nothing really that was like inspiring me to like want to do something, I'm also kind of like laggy, sorry. Anyway, but I guess like for like macro scale goals, I'm definitely wanting to hit 500K would be my next thing. In total like views, I don't really have like a number, but 500K subs would be something insane. And if I could be one of those, eventually be one of those like very, very select few people to hit that gold play button, that would be like a dream come true. Because I mean, I'm pretty far from that. I'm like 700K subs away from that. But who knows how the next several years will go? You never know.
For sure. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in some aspects, you look forward in a few years from a more like tunnel vision perspective. You're looking at a specific few details, and then when you think about it on a grand scale, it's you think about everything else, and it's certainly food for thought. And in some cases, it can be fun to think about, but I think in others, it's not too great to dwell on. But certainly on the note of hitting goals and like being able to hit the gold play button at some point, that's something huge that everybody wishes that they could do for sure. But it's it'll be curious to see the people that pop in and pop out of the community so far.
Yeah.
And definitely I think the big thing with Beyblade Geeks too, because there was the period at the very end of 2013 and the beginning of 2014 where they would upload every like couple days to like weekend, it was like weekly uploads, and then they didn't upload anything in December, and it was sort of a weird period. And then we got the news of what had happened at the end of the year for 2013 when William unfortunately passed away. And I think that was a very critical period where Beyblade Geeks were considering retiring, because I know like that was a huge. They were gone for a month, and then they came back with a very candid video, and then they didn't upload for a little while after that. But then they came back with a video on 3DS Evolution for Metal Fight, I think, and then they kept going, and it was incredible to see that. So I think back to the grand scale, knowing that Beyblade X will fade, and there will be a period where viewership and interest will decline with X. That'll be the critical period for everybody, where we have to wait for Takara to pump out, the next gen, or maybe it doesn't happen, depending. But let's hope that it, on the positive side, let's hope that it does come out. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see a new era of people come in and sort of a cycle. But I think the interesting thing to see is who will be able to recognize the inevitable, rise and fall of each gen, and who will stick around through the dark period between gens to wait.
Yeah. But it's definitely down the line for sure. It can be kind of overwhelming to think about too, like especially like for goals, and it's kind of like we'll connect with kind of what I mentioned like super early in the podcast, talking about like advice for people. But for like advice for people, is I think it's definitely a good thing to have goals that are like reachable. Like if you have if someone has 0 subs, I probably wouldn't say, by the end of 2025 have 1 million. Okay, that's like, go for it, but that's gonna be crazy. But I would focus more on kind of like the day-to-day, kind of improving per video, and then eventually it'll add up. Don't lose sight of kind of the goals like you set for yourself. But if you only think about those long-term goals, like for me, like I mentioned earlier, 500K and then maybe 1 million. But if I only think about hitting that 1 million subs, it's gonna be really overwhelming. And eventually, because you realize, I'm 600 something thousand subs away from that, I'll never hit that. Then it's like really demotivating, So you got to have like those smaller scale things where I think before you think about numbers, you really want to enjoying the community, is like a number one thing. Because if you enjoy the community, you reach out to cool people like the people on this podcast. You guys can laugh now. That was funny, but
Insert laugh track.
anyways,
Anyway, come on.
reaching out to people that are like-minded like you're going to enjoy the hobby. You're going to want to make more videos to, showcase stuff that you're passionate about, watch their videos, and then the numbers and stuff will come later,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But keep trying, keep evolving, keep wanting to learn and to meet people. And then eventually, whatever success you have will come,
Yeah, exactly. To build on that, like right now is, the prime time where I can remember specifically where I started with Elliot, where I saw he was making Beyblade content. He had 295 subs, I think, when I found his channel, just about. And I came in, I had maybe 5 to 10. And most of those were just people that I knew personally, like my parents, close friends, IRL. I was like, hey, I'm doing this new channel, subscribe, and they did. And then I saw Elliot making content. I reached out. And if I hadn't done that, I 100% would have fallen into that trap of wanting to reach 1,000 subs. I started making content August 2023. And if I hadn't, started talking to other people, I would have had a goal of hitting 1,000 by the end of 23, which didn't happen. And when I did meet Elliot and I started, getting into who's this in the community and, really sort of understanding what it takes to make content and, what it is to grow on YouTube, especially in a more niche area like Beyblade.
Yeah.
I then tempered my goals for 2023. My goal was to hit 100 subs instead. And that was just by making the best content I could, always looking for ways to grow and just making as many friends as I could on the way. And we ended up hitting 300 before the year was over, just about. And this year it's going to be 1,000. And we're not even in quarter 2 and we're at 600. So it's, it's always focus on those. Never be ashamed to look forward to a small milestone, because to the people around you, especially in this community where mostly everyone is super friendly, that's gonna, they will congratulate you for it. Whereas if you're someone who's coming in just purely to capitalize on the hype of, Beyblade X is this new hype thing, and they go supersonic speed on their rails, and they throw each other out of this big pocket in the stadium. If you're trying to just come in here and hit 100,000 subs in, 2 months because it's relevant, you're not going to hit that. Like what it takes to be a content creator is understanding that you're going to grow. You're going to hit those ruts, where Beyblade goes into a dark age and you don't have anything new to talk about. And, Jake here has firsthand experience with that. And, it's all about, it's about perseverance and patience and knowing people in the community and knowing what goals to set first.
You as a person, we just need to clear up a big controversy that Metal and I are very curious about. And we should have started off with this, but the real watchers are watching right now are going to get the answer to this. You are Jake from State Farm, right?
Yes, I am Jake from State Farm. I am wearing khakis. I'm also Jake from Left Burst. Sorry, I just leaked. I leaked. Gotta do the surprise thumbnail.
What is your favorite Beyblade ever out of every gen, everything we've gotten?
My all-time favorite Beyblade is that's tough. My all-time favorite is Hellkerbix. That was but I think it's more of like a nostalgia pick versus like, oh, this piece is good versus this piece or whatever. But I think his name was Damien, right? I think Damien in the show was friggin' awesome. Okay, his whole like Hell's Gate thing was super cool. It was also like right at the peak of like Metal Masters. This is when I was like in it the most, and I felt like the most. That's when I was like, I got like my little ILINNUC's channel of awesome. That's when I like started caring about my YouTube set more. That was like one of the very first bays I got imported from Japan, through like eBay, and it was like 40 or 50 bucks at the time, judging by inflation, that'd be what, $90 to import now.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy, right? I imported that from Japan, and my grandma helped me look for a not sus looking listing on eBay, and I don't know. Whenever I got it, it had like a little Japanese newspaper it was wrapped up. It was just cool. It was super cool. The bay was also really good because it was called the Maximum series, right?
Yeah.
That and like Basalt or whatever. So it was just really cool. It was like the perfect time where I just have the most nostalgia for Beyblade, for old gen Beyblade YouTube. It was awesome. My favorite plastic Jin Bay is Dragoon GT because it just looks cool. It just looks nice.
Did you, just kind of off topic here, did you watch my video on Dragoon GT?
I saw your one on Tripio. I have not seen the Dragoon GT one. I saw it in my recommended.
Well, if you need to learn all the history on Dragoon GT, go check out my channel.
It's on my list for sure.
Oh, it's real. Yeah, that time was a hype time at like the end of Metal Masters, when it's like, at that point, I think Flame Vixus, I think that was around the point I got into it, because I had moved like several states apart, so I was out of social circles for a good 6 months, and I missed the beginning of Beyblade from the friends that I had where I was living, and then I didn't have anybody I knew where I moved. So I got into it like end of 2011 when Masters was, like at its peak.
Oh, man,
I remember like the hype.
The Metal Fusion packaging, it was like blue and whatever. Metal Masters was all white, and then Metal Fury was in that same vein, but dude, the blue packaging for Metal Fusion is still, and the little cards that have the anime characters on it. Dude, that was so cool.
That was hype.
It was so nice.
Yeah, that was the peak of Hasbro packaging. Like, I like the plastic gem packaging a lot, especially like the HMS packaging. But I will always love Metal Fusion's packages because they had the almost blister pack with you could hold the box by the cylinder that the Beyblade was like taken apart. It was like floating in there. It was like the El Drago crystal from Metal Fusion, except they took the Beyblade apart in the middle of it and like separated it, and you could see every part like super up close before you bought it. You could
see what you were buying, and they stopped doing that. Hasbro, they did that at the very beginning of Burst, and part of me thinks they stopped doing it because it looked ugly. I think their bays looked ugly, and so I think the 3D image on the package looked better than the actual product. And so that's why they stopped doing it. But maybe there's some other psychological reason. But I really like the blister style packaging because you could like seeing like Lightning El Drago in store for the first time, and it had that little yellow like left spin sticker on it, and it had Ryuga. I was like, oh my god. It was insane. I have not felt that level of hype in a Walmart ever. I avoid Walmart now, but that was just crazy.
I go like whenever I go like out, like back in 2021, 22, when I was like super into Hot Wheels collecting, we would go to like Target and Walmart and go on hunts, and every now and then I would see like a Beyblade Burst packaging. It was just a solid box. And like maybe earlier on there would be like early backstock when they were still using like the clear plastic packaging from like Rise or Turbo or whatever it was where they had it. And like I was like, this isn't fun. This kind of looks weird. I don't like the way that the box art looked. It looked kind of bland. Whereas like the whole thing for Metal Fusion, it's like it had the logo at the bottom, and that's where like the launcher and the ripcord were and all the stuff, and then the character card, and then the Beyblade where you could grab the cylinder there and just see it all. And I think Metal Fight, Beyblade always looks better when you can clearly see the motif in one part in the center, because then it looks like a spinning top and it looks round when it's spinning around. And with later bursts, I didn't like the fact that the entire Beyblade was the design. And I know I'm going to get hate for that from some people, but I'm sorry. I don't like it when my Beyblade looks like a painting. Just put the painting on one part of it in the middle and then have the rest of it be inspired by it, but don't have it be it.
I mentioned something like that in my Beyblade X versus Beyblade Burst video, where it looked like, I mean, end of series, Beyblade Burst stuff. It looked cool from like, just like, don't even think about it as a Beyblade. Like, think about it as like an item that's like detailed and painted. And I said it would look really good. Like, it looked really good on a shelf as like a display piece. But actually battling them is probably some of the worst Beyblading experience. Like, I think battling, especially if you're doing like meta combos, like using like Wind Knight or whatever, some of those end of series Beyblade Burst stuff is some of the least fun I've had battling. They're too big, they're too bulky. Beyblades need to be this sized. Okay, they're great when they're basically less than the palm of your hand. Okay, any bigger than that, and it doesn't work. I don't think it's nearly as fun.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
And having that gear chip design back, where it kind of like kind of like Metal Fight, but more like Plastic Gen. Oh, such a great idea.
Yeah, I loved it when I saw that was
glazing
the design.
Beyblade X real quick.
Yep, exactly. Like when I saw that was the design that they had for the Beyblades. Again, I was like, oh my goodness, it looks like the Beyblade that I love, and not the color neon nonsense mess that Burst's designs were. Look,
do you know who Jet Kuso is?
Yes, you did. Yeah. You've done a couple.
Jet Kuso made a video, and I don't remember which video it was. I think it was in his Beyblade X versus like Bakugan video, right? He said how, like, literally almost the same thing as you, where like he prefers like the Metal Fight and the Plastic Gen look, and he said that he doesn't like when his Beyblades look like 7 mall katanas in a trench coat.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
and it's such like a weird, like, how does that make any sense? And then you're like,
it does.
That's actually like, that's weirdly accurate. I kind of agree.
It is.
It's like over designed, over detailed. I really enjoy the simplicity. It's gonna suck whenever we get stickers for season 2, because we're gonna get stickers at some point. It's gonna happen. I prefer they bake the details into the metal themselves.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get stickers at some point. I'm also feel pretty confident that eventually the plastic is gonna be on the top, kind of like how, like in Metal Fight, where you had the plastic energy ring, and then you had the whatever the metal wheel was called, the hybrid wheel, whatever.
Fusion wheel.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. It's gonna be like that at some point. So I'm just kind of enjoying the metal tops.
No way!
I'm enjoying the metal tops while I can.
I do think, for how simplistic X is at the moment, separating those the plastic and metal on the blade would be a wise decision.
I just don't really know how they would do it without, because like Metal Fight, you had like a face bolt, right, connecting it all together, and I think that a big issue or a critique with Metal Fight is that they're all very round, right? I mean, you have some like very areas or whatever, or you have some that have some harder edges. But I mean, the Pegasus, B01 or BB?
Yeah, I think BB.
BB01 Pegasus was more aggressive than like Storm Pegasus was in its shaping, but they had to make them round so that way all the cores could like fit together. Because you can't have one be super like spiky or whatever and still have the energy ring kind of fit in. So they all had to be very uniform, and they didn't really have a lot of space. So I'm worried if they do make them separate pieces, eventually, I mean, they're kind of rounded a little bit right now. I mean, looking at Wizard Arrow and Night Lance, they're kind of round, but I mean, Phoenix Wing or whatever, if you were to, I feel like it would just make the bays a little bit more samey, and it'd kind of go in the same direction as Metal Fight, where they just don't have as much. So if I had to choose between a hybrid wheel system or keeping it all one piece, but all the shapes are a little bit more unique, I'm probably gonna go with the shapings be more unique, because if they're not, then they're just gonna end up like Metal Fight, or it's gonna be like Beyblade Burst, where everything was round or everything was 3-blade. That's it. Those are the options you get. You get round ball or 3-blade design. That's all.
Yeah, true. I do really like the fact that there's like between each blade, like I think when you look at it from, like a silhouette, they all kind of blend together. Like when Phoenix Wing was the silhouette, it was like, is this going to be another drawn? Is this going to be something else? And you could tell it was 3-bladed, but then you actually look at it and it's like, it's painted for one. And then each blade is like designed very uniquely. And I think the move that they would do is kind of reverse what Metal Fight did, where the plastic is the bottom part and then the blade is on top. So your mascot is Nitro. Where did he come from?
Really? I wanted to get something that's like the whole Nitro name. So the mascot's like a knight, right? The Nitro Knight. But I think the name's a little bit more popular. I wanted something that matched like the N, because they used my N logo as like the first. Well, the first one was like an N that was by like Crazy Aries, but the more well-known design is like that heavy metal one, right? But that had like the N as the logo, and I didn't want to call it like Nook. What bay is called Nook? That's lame. So I thought I just think of like words that are cool that started with an N, and I thought just Nitro. And Nitro doesn't even fit into the Burst naming scheme. It's not like a person or whatever. But I thought Nitro sounded cool, and so I just kind of stuck with it. Nobody else had like Nitro. I don't think there's any Beyblades called Nitro, so it was just kind of unique. And then eventually there was a Knight design that was made by it is Panly37 on Instagram. I don't know if he does Beyblade stuff, but he's like he did it for a little while. He tried to have his own like comic. I think he stopped doing it though. But he has really good like comic style art. He does like Digimon stuff too. He designed the Knight for it, and then now it just kind of became its own motif. And I have a new one coming within the next month or so that it's not a painted Beyblade. It is a completely unique steel design. So
Wow.
Be on the lookout for that one. That's a big collaboration project too, but I'll keep that one under wraps for now.
Ooh, all right. All right, so guys, that is going to wrap up our interview of Jake ILINNUC, the man himself. Jake, thanks so much for coming on here and spending 2 hours with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, anytime.
Fun time.
Anytime. So guys, be sure to go subscribe to Jake, subscribe to the ILINNUC channel, go check out all of his awesome takes on Beyblade, mostly awesome takes on Beyblade X and other
UX.
I'll take that.
Go check out ILINNUC's channel. It's great. Awesome editing videos. You guys are going to love it, especially if you have those short attention spans. His shorts are really good too. So be sure to go and check out all of this stuff. Go check out Elliot and mine's channels as well while you're at it. Go subscribe to all three of us. There are some other instances where we converge on our content and whatnot, and there will certainly be some more events in the future, so stay tuned for those as well. ILINNUC, any last words?
Just that I appreciate you guys inviting me onto the podcast. It's definitely not going to be the last time. So if you guys have any ideas, if you're watching to this point, first of all, you're awesome. But if you have any ideas for future podcast episodes with me being in them, let us know in the comments down below, and maybe I'll have these guys on my channel in the future. But we'll see.
Sounds good. What just casually dropping the bomb there.
Yeah.
You know,
Only if
just
we
trying to
improve.
contain ourselves
Only
here.
if we change our takes
Gotta
on
prove,
UX.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I got you. I hear you loud and clear, man.
Thank you so much, Jake. It was really fun getting some insight in your whole creative aspect, and it's really fun to see that you're so passionate about the behind the scenes, because I can relate. In metal, we enjoy the content creation part more than Beyblade as a whole, and it's fun to just have Beyblade as a way to express ourselves, and it's just good to pick a larger creator's brain. That it's just a good time. I don't know if you've been on a podcast before, but it was a good time just having some conversation with you and
It was a lot of
breaking
fun.
stuff down. Thank you guys so much for watching. Blade Dragons out.